Hey guys, Lazy here, and that was my 8 hours campaign where I have tested this Demon Form Hexblast in a solo self-found environment to replicate a true League starter scenario, which means there's no shredding, no fancy gear, just pure demonic power. This was my first map right out of the campaign, and anyway, this just happened. I got a perfect Jewel Orb, and I can't even use it because I haven't found myself a greater Jewel Orb. So anyway, this build shreds the campaign. It is a very strong League starter in my opinion. So why is the Demon Form Infernalist such an amazing League starter? For the most part, this build is beginner friendly, but will require some resource management. The good news is it doesn't require any specific gear to work well, and this build scales through spell damage, which will naturally gain from Demon Form stacks, so you will feel strong right after getting it as your first ascendancy. You get great mobility, solid defense with energy shields, and consistent damage that handles everything the campaign throws at you. Plus, it is just fun to transform into a demon and melt everything around you. In this guide, I'll walk you through everything you need to know from your first skill gems to the final boss. I'll show you exactly what worked during my 8-hour solo self-found run, including which skill to pick up, how to gear efficiently, and the best way to handle tough boss fights. I will also cover how to manage your Demon Form stack, which is the key to making this build shine. Whether you are new to Path of Exile 2 or just looking for a solid League starter, this build will have you covered. If you want more details after watching, I have also put together a comprehensive written guide on Mobalytics, link will be in the descriptions. So let's dive in and get started with the Demon Form Infernalist League starter guide. The heart of this build is the Demon Form mechanics, which you can get after ascending to the Infernalist ascendancies. Whenever you transform, you get a massive boost to damage and mobility, and each stack will increase your spell power, and your goal is to maintain a high number of stacks throughout the campaigns. And with Demon Form, you can use any spell skills that you want, and the setups I'm running make use of the best spell at certain level and breakpoints. So we are starting with Essence Drain and Contagion, then we are transitioning to a Bonestorm and Detonate Dead setups, and ultimately after Act 3 will become a Hexblast Demon Form build. The synergy of the skills and the power curve make this build shine even with minimal investment. The only disclaimer about this build is that throughout the campaign, you will have to manage your life class and mana class really well, but it is the price you have to pay to play Demon Form in the campaign without any fancy regeneration gear. With that, let's sum it up. Let's talk about what makes this build great and where it has some challenge. The pro is it is incredibly gear independent, which means you clear the campaign with items you find or buy from vendors. It has excellent spell scaling that improve naturally as you level. The mobilities from Demon Form let you just zip around very efficiently, and the damage remain consistent throughout the campaign. The cons might not seem too obvious if you don't play Demon Form before, but when in Demon Form you actually have to manage your stacks and it takes practice. If you are doing it correctly, you will permanently be in Demon Form throughout the campaign, and there's definitely a learning curve but nothing too steep, and I will go over in details how to do that later. Let's go to the campaign progression starting from Act 1. And your priority skills in this act is going to be Flame Wall, Essence Rain, Contagions, Skeletal Snipers, Raging Spirits. You'll get Flame Wall right out of town, and you just need to follow the written guide on Mobalytics where I explain what skill gem you should get after a certain monster or where you will get it, and the support skill gem as well, so make sure to pick this up as soon as they are available and use that, and they will carry you through the early game until you get your core setups. So here, you don't need to worry about it too much, it is only Act 1, but I provide a rejects here for you. You want to focus on movement speed boots and ones with spell damage, or +2 level of spell skills, or chaos spell skills. The rejects I'll use will be in the written guide or in the description of this video. Early on, you want to kind of prioritize getting any kind of gear that you can use, and if you are in a League Star scenario, try to pick up most gears to sell them to a vendor for some extra gold income. Your skill rotation at this stage is quite simple because you have only a few spells. You drop your Flame Wall, then you try to cast Chaos Bolt through it for extra added damage. And in the early game, you can also use Skeletal Sniper to shoot the gas arrow on top of the flame wall and kind of pop the gas with the flame wall to do even more single target damage. For AoE clear, you just use Contagions, and later on when you get Essence Rain, your main AoE clearing skill is going to be Essence Rain to the monster, cast Contagion on top of that monster, and then the AoE should clear everything. And for single target damage, you will use Essence Rain. You cast Flame Wall, position it in a way that it will hit the boss, and your Essence Rain will also fly through it for extra added damage. And then you will use the gas arrow on top of the boss, and also once you get Raging Spirits, you will also cast Flame Wall once in a while to summon the Raging Spirit, as they also do a lot of damage. This setup is quite effective for the early bossing part of the campaign, and with the setup you should be able to clear Act 1 bosses without any issues. For the final boss of Act 1, you will have access to Bonestorm, and this is an amazing spell for early game damage. So for the boss fight of Act 1, you will be using Bonestorm, Flame Wall, Gas Arrow, and basically that should be enough to take down the boss very fast. You do a lot of damage at this stage in the game. For your passive skill trees, you want to head straight for this spell damage cluster over here, and don't bother with anything else. I'm taking these notes here because they give us the most bang for our buck early on, and most class, if not every class early on, you want to take damage because it is important to progress faster. By the end of Act 1, your tree should look something similar to this, and remember that early on damage is king, so try to get as much damage as you can, unless you're playing on hardcore. So Act 2 is where things get finally exciting because you will get your demon form, and you will pick this up right after killing Balfala, which is going to drop you a Jin Barrier, which you will use to get your first ascendancy point by completing the trial of the Sekima and get your demon form. Unfortunately, I actually lost my Act 2 and 3 footage somehow, so I'm not going to have too much to show you here. The idea here is that once you have demon form unlocked, you will sustain demon form throughout the campaign by using your flask, and that should be enough to keep you at 40 to 60 stacks depending on your flask roll, and make sure you always upgrade your flask. Watch how I manage my stack here. Basically, as soon as your HP go lower, you just pop your fly flask, and that should push your HP back up to full, and then you're just constantly doing it to maintain your demon form stacks, which you can push really high when you are fighting bosses, but generally for mapping, you should be fine keeping your demon form stacks at 40 to 60 stacks, and you should have it permanently up with the second wind support. For your gears right now, you should be focusing entirely on energy shield base, and you should avoid anything with plus 2 maximum life or plus 2 strength because it will give you more maximum life, which means that it will be harder to maintain your demon form stacks. My rejects for Act 2 should include all the best energy shield base for you to highlight them in the shops, so make sure you visit the shops and look for anything that is highlighted, and you can craft on those to get the best ES base because it is all of our defense. Your skill rotation is still going to be roughly the same as Act 1. Essence Rain and Contagion is still very strong for AoE clear, and Bonestorm is still amazing for single target damage, even though it is not a part of your rotation, but the key is knowing how to transform and how to manage your stacks, and usually you want to build up a little bit of stacks just before fighting the bosses or mini bosses, and you can see how fast things will actually die when you stack up a lot of stacks in the demon form, and that is the power spike that we are looking for. At this point, you should relatively be tanky with a lot of energy shields, and also you should be running green feast instead of the Raging Spirits, which is going to double your energy shields, and that would make farming and progressing through the campaign a lot smoother. If you are progressing very fast, roughly by the end of Act 2, just before the final boss, there is a farming spot where you can reset the map, reset to checkpoint, and farm your EXP to catch up in level. So look for this exact spot on the Dreadnought area, and anytime that you respawn, go ahead and kill that magic pack there for a lot of EXP. Then press escape and restart to checkpoint. Do this a few times, And this should be enough to get you to roughly level 31, where you will get one more level on your skill gems, which is a lot of good power upgrades just before the final boss of Act 2. And once you are at level 31, just before the final boss, you also want to do some minor respec on the tree as well. Basically, respec your tree, make it something look similar to this, where it will focus on critical damage, physical damage mainly for Bonestorm damage, because we will be dropping Essence Rain and Contagion for the most part for Act 3, because the Chaos damage spell is starting to fall off by this point. In Act 3, we are going to refine our skill setups, and that is going to be mainly Bonestorm and Detonate Death for clear. The reason why you wait until Act 3 to start using Bonestorm with the clear is because it can be clunky without the third link, and you get a guaranteed lesser Jeweler Orb from this exact basket in the beginning area of the third act, where you will get a Scout Shot link, which will make the Bonestorm feel a lot smoother to play with. We said that, just remember that your spell damage skills with your gem levels, so keep them level up whenever possible. Also try to save a few skill gems to make the transition into Hexblast by the end of Act 3 after the fight with Doryani. The only gems I would suggest not leveling is actually Detonate Death, because you don't need to level the damage scales with the corpse level, so you just keep that at the minimum level at level 7. Gear-wise, we are still all about energy shields and resistance. Just don't sleep on Artificial Orb at this point. If you have been picking up gears, you can salvage it, and they are super valuable for adding the socket to your gears and putting in the rune. You're not going to cap your resistance in the campaign, but it is going to be a lot better if your resistance is not in the negative. A very important part of your items or gear at this point is actually going to be your flask. Your life and mana flask at this point have to be sorted out very carefully, because you will start having trouble keeping up the stacks if you're not using the proper life flask. So make sure you roll your life flask, use the best life flask at your level, and I have a filter for this leveling setups, and it highlights all the life and mana flasks, so make sure you pick them up and craft them. I also do have rejects for Act 3 as well, so make sure you also use them and check the vendor. Just pick up any really good ES gear you can craft on them with the currencies that you have. Again, I'm playing solo self-found here, but if you are playing a League Starter scenario, you probably can buy some really good gears for really cheap using 1 or 2 Exalted Orb that you picked up in the campaign. I am not sure how much the Ghost Riot or Ming's Heart gonna be in the beginning of the League Starter, but if you are able to afford them, they will make your campaign so much easier. Just having less life, meaning you can sustain higher stacks, and it will be a lot easier to keep your stack up. What I am trying to demonstrate here is that it's totally fine working for solo self-out scenario where you don't have access to currency. You in League Start Day 1 where nobody's selling anything and they are progressing through the campaign. For your passive skill tree, you should be filling out a lot of these energy shield node and spell damage node as well. I also grabbed some cast speed here because it will help us cast faster in demon form, and you cast Bonestorm faster, mean more quality of life. And by the end of Act 3, your tree should look something like this. The path that I have taken is to maximize the efficiency, because we will be grabbing these keys nodes, and then by the end of Act 3, we are also respecting out this tree, so I want to roughly prepare ourselves for the transitions into Hexblast. Near the end of the campaign in Act 3, there is also a farming spot where you can catch up in level as well, and it is right here where you kill all these monsters and you restart a checkpoint just like in Act 2. It is okay to farm EXP here as well. Ideally, going through the campaign, you want to dodge road, you want to skip a lot of zone, just trying to go as fast as you can. So you might be under level in this kind of zone, and it is okay to stop and reset and catch up in EXP here. There's a lot of players also using Leap Slam, using armors, gears to kind of jump over everything. It is not what I prefer to do because I like to roleplay it as a demon form, so it is up to your preference, but you can do that as well. And finally, we have Act 4 to Act 6 progressions. This is where you make the transitions into Hexblast. For the first boss, which I'm fighting the middle here, I'm still using the Bonestorm setup, but as soon as you get to town, you are going to transition into the Hexblast setup using the skill gems that we have set up previously from Act 3 and respec your tree so you have the damage needed to complete the rest of the campaign. And overall, Hexblast is an one-button playstyle, so it should feel a lot better for you to play. The first thing you want to do when you get to town is to set up your skill gems, and you can go back to Act 2 in the normal campaign to respec your trees. Make sure that when you respec your tree, you want to grab the Wither nodes and the Pure Chaos node as well, because it adds extra chaos damage to your spell, which means you can apply Withering stacks with Bow Lightning or Iron Winters when you cast them with the Withering Touch support. This is going to add a lot of single target damage near the beginning of the Act 4 campaign, so make sure you prioritize getting those two notable. Your final skill setup should have Hexblast, Essence Rain mainly used to freeze the boss, and you are running Green Feast with Eye of Winter to apply the Withering stacks with the Withering Touch. And before getting Eye of Winter, you can also use Bow Lightning. It is a level 11 skill gem, so it's going to be available right at the start. We are running Blasphemy support with Despair and Ritualistic Curse and Magnifying Effect. This is going to be your Act 4 to 6 setups, and you are going with this into early mapping as well. For your gear later on in the acts from 4 to 6, you don't really need a rejects for your gears, but mostly you are going to buy them from vendor whenever you see a gear that you can equip, and you want to also get a lot of energy shields, a lot of resistance. Life regeneration at this point don't really help too much. You mainly sustain your stacks with the life flask itself, so it is less important. Don't worry about it too much until you get to the mapping setups where you will need to buy some unique items. But then, until then, here you can see I'm fighting Doryani in Act 6. It is the final boss of the campaign, and we're really destroying him. At this point, your rotation is going to be using Eye of Winter to apply the Wither stacks. And then you use Essence Rains once in a while to freeze the boss, and it's mostly going to be just spamming Hexblast to do the damage. Most of the time when you are doing a boss in demon form, it is about the battle of attritions, where you can keep your demon form stacked up as long as you can. And so if you can do that, you should have no problem taking down the boss, because demon form by itself gives you a lot of damage. Roughly by the end of the campaign, your passive skill tree should look something like this. Again, there were a few farming spots that I mentioned earlier. You want to use it to get to roughly level 61 to have all these points, and then you can see how much damage you do to the end bosses. In my opinion, this is going to be a pretty well-rounded League starter. We are going to be able to farm early mapping without any issues. We are going to be able to farm Trial of the Chaos God, which generate pretty good currency early on as well. Depending on the patch on the 28th, I will provide a build update for this particular build, and I want to wait for the patch to see if there's anything changed about the build, and then I will make a follow-up videos on that. Let's talk about what really make or break the build, and it is about managing your demon form effectively during the campaign. So I have a few tips for you. The main challenge is demon form has a 20-second cooldown by default, and that means after the demon form ends, you will be waiting around 20 seconds before transforming into demon again. And trust me, 20 seconds in PoE is going to be feeling like forever. The solution is we are going to use a second wind support. This gems is absolutely essential for our build, and you want to use it as soon as possible right after you get your demon form. And this is going to be how we are going to stay permanently in demon form. So what it does is it gives demon form 2 charges instead of 1, which means that you can technically transform right again immediately after your first demon form. And the catch is that second wind double the cooldowns of the demon form itself. So the base cooldown is 20 seconds, so now the base cooldown is 40 seconds per charge. And since we gain 1 stack per second while in demon form, we need to stay in demon form for at least 40 seconds to be able to get our second charge back. This means that maintaining 40 plus stacks is very important. Your flasks are going to make this possible, so good flask management is crucial. The trick is to use your flask, light flask, whenever your health gets low. and you can keep using it to maintain your stacks. You can push to 40 to 60 plus stack this way without any issues. The problem comes when you are in a situation like this where you don't have any more flasks. So there's a trick for this. So basically you want to respawn to the checkpoint and then you use the checkpoint to move to the waypoint, and this should refill all your flasks instantly, and you can do this in any zone in the campaign. I typically plan my routes from checkpoint to checkpoint, and most zones have them spaced well enough so that you can reach to the next one before running out of flask. So if you do run dry, you can always go back to town as a backup plan if you don't find a waypoint or if you don't find the checkpoint yet. Always make sure to upgrade your flask every 10 level or so. Look for the modifier that says charges gain per second modifier. It is very valuable for sustaining longer demon form or being in a larger area. Also, you definitely want to avoid the flask modifier that say remove 15% of life when you use a mana flask. I definitely have killed myself with that one more time than I'd like to admit, so just pay attention. Lastly, it might not be a tip because it is kinda obvious, but always enter the boss fight with full flask charge. You want to have maximum resources available for those encounters because, like I said before, it is a battle of attritions. The difference between struggling on this build and loving it comes down to how well you manage your demon form stacks and flask. A quick reminder that I have put together a comprehensive written guide on Mobalytics that complements this video. If you see any discrepancy between the videos and the build guide on Mobalytics, assume that the Mobalytics version is going to be the best one. I'm testing out a few more versions of this build, but so far this is the best result that I got so far. To wrap things up, the Demon Form Infernalist is an excellent league starter because it's primarily scaled through your passive tree skill gems rather than requiring any specific gears, at least in the league starter scenario. The combination of energy shield for defense and powerful spell damage scaling with demon form stacks carries you through the campaign very reliably. Maintain 40 to 50 stacks before transforming out the demon form and you will be permanently in demon form during the campaign. If you found this guide helpful, let me know, drop a comment if you have any questions or share your experience with the build if you are going to test it out before the league start. Don't forget to check out the written guide and the link is in the descriptions for even more detail. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.